grounded due to the weather. So she takes a ride with strangers in this blizzard nightmare in the Pennsylvania mountains. But worse than the blizzard is that someone in the car does not want them to get home in one piece. So that's where the real thriller element comes in. So I love that I almost have two villains in this book, the villain, who I won't reveal, and the storm, which is its own villain. So yeah.
Oh, wow. That sounds so scary. And I'm sorry to hear that you've been like in car accidents before. That's terrifying. So unfortunately, kind of like yours, mine was inspired also by my own personal experience with, I don't know if like I would call him a stalker, but it was like this guy who was just kind of like who seemed to happen to be everywhere I was. Like he would be waiting outside of like my classes. And this was in college, and he was like 28 and I was like 17. So I was like really, really freaked out. Like he would be waiting outside of the library or, outside of like the parking lot. And so, luckily he never like was outside of like my house or anything, but at school he was just everywhere, and like it really, really scared me. So that was kind of what later inspired it, and I kind of knew like, okay, I don't want like the female character to be as helpless and lost as I was back then. So that was the inspiration.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and it's always, obviously we don't love that bad things are inspired by real life events, but they are, and they translate to fiction very, very well. You both did a great job with that. So how did your books evolve and change from when you first wrote it to publication? Like, were your twists the twists that are in the book currently, or were they different? Like, was there a different villain? Was there a different kind of storm? Was it a hurricane? No.
Wasn't a hurricane. Jessie, I'm curious for you.
Yeah. I don't think I had any huge changes aside from that I made Logan, who is the stalker of my book, really like hot and cool, so he's not so nobody sees him as like a stalker aside from like the girl that he's stalking. Everyone kind of sees him as this really cool guy that everybody wants to be friends with. So I think I would say that was like the biggest change from when I was plotting to when I actually started writing it. Yeah.
I love that. I love that you're a plotter, Jessie. I am not. I am flying into the mist with my books. I have a few scenes, and part of, I think, what makes them scary for me is not knowing exactly how I will get out, and often not knowing if I will be able to finish the book. So this one was interesting. This is my 7th book, my first New York Times bestseller. So that was really exciting. And I restarted this book several times. I knew, and not to give too much away, Jessie and I have some similar elements in both of our books, so you should read them. Check that out. Plus, our covers go so beautifully together. You should buy these books together.
They do.
So no, mine definitely, I restarted it several times. I could feel that something was a little off in the story, and I can't really move forward when I know something's fundamentally off. So I have to just keep feeling it out and getting to know the characters. A couple of the elements that came into play, one are my book has some letters interspersed throughout the book, which has been really well received. And I've had a lot of readers reach out to me about that. So that was really helpful. And I was like, oh, this is the piece that's missing. It's a perspective to the book where I let the reader in slowly on some things that our main character doesn't know. So that was one of the pieces. They can pick it up kind of through the letters. And then the other piece is my character was in grief. And that's something I'm super sadly, intimately familiar with. And she lost her aunt a year ago. So she has kind of pushed her grief out, but as anybody who's lost someone can tell you, you can only push it away for so long. Eventually it's coming for you and you're going to have to deal with it. So part of this journey is her reaching that point of being able to accept her grief. And those are things that happened as I was editing and rewriting, which I am a firm believer. For me, that's where the book is really born. When you write a book, it's one thing, but when you really take the time to edit it and carve it into what the story should be, that's where the real writing emerges for me.
It's true.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that.
We love a good edit letter. Really, really helps, doesn't it? So speaking of perspectives, which I think Natalie brought up really briefly, in The Obsession, we get both Logan and Delilah's point of view, and in Five Total Strangers, we're focused on Mira. So can we talk a little bit about why you made those perspective choices and why you showed what you showed and kept secret what you kept hidden away, and how you used that to heighten the tension?
I love that question. I knew that I wanted to show both like the predator and the prey, just to see kind of like how one affects the other. And then when it turns out like the prey, might not be so prey-like, I thought that it was just like a really fun way for me to kind of play with this cat and mouse game. And I didn't want Logan to just be like a straight out like villain that, I wanted people to see that from his point of view, he was the hero, that, he's like the romance, like hero basically. And that he was just doing everything he can to protect his girl. And how like that came out really badly, but he didn't necessarily like see it that way. I guess because I feel like nobody really sees themselves as, the villain. I don't know, except for maybe really bad people, but most people don't. So yeah, I thought that would be really bad
people do. I think you're right. I think we're all the hero of our own story. We could be Charles Manson. We're still the hero of our own story. Yeah, I love that. I love that you did that.
Yeah. What about you, Natalie? I'm dying to hear.
So I needed Mira to be really in the dark. When I was writing it, I was frightened. And I think that comes through because I'm like, I don't know how she's getting out of this and exactly what's going on. Sometimes the ending, it's not necessarily clear to me because I am an intimist writer, but I'll have an idea. Like, I know this is the villain, or I know this was going on. This one was a little trickier at first. I wasn't sure, and I needed her to be really in the dark about what was happening. So I really put myself back in being in a car, frightened in the storm. So there's that element, the weather and not knowing if you're physically safe in that moment, just due to your traveling circumstances, that's very consuming. And then she starts to pick up on all these clues from people in the car, as you do when you're stuck with strangers in any situation. If you're stuck with strangers in an elevator, in a hallway, at a conference, wherever you are, you're, I think, especially as a woman, very aware of the people around you, and you're picking up on cues from them. So I loved this book because I was deeply inside Mira's head, trying to process these pieces that she would see, like, oh, she's falling asleep. Why is this character, why is this person in the car with me asleep so much? And why did the driver do this thing? So she's trying to make these connections and understand what the motivations are. And it becomes clear pretty quickly, something really bad is going on in this car. And now she's trying to figure out, what is it? Is it just me being paranoid? Which I've been through those feelings. So I think for me, a lot of it was hidden because I really wanted it. I wanted to bring the character in, or the reader into the character's skin a bit, to say, what would you really feel like in this situation? And you don't know very much. So I gave the reader a touch more through the letters, but not much. And that was, I think, probably the thing I've heard the most may have connected with readers is just, this was such a suffocating, terrifying read. I really felt like I couldn't get out of the car either, which is definitely how I felt writing it. So there was that.
Yeah. And sort of going off of that, when you're writing like a really intense or like dark scene, do you have any like rituals or something that will like get you back sort of out of that headspace? Like, do you always like, if you write an intense scene, do you like shut your computer and go drink hot cocoa or something? Is there anything that you do to sort of get back into non-intensity?
I don't know that I've ever had this question. Have you, Jessie? I don't think this is good. God.
Yeah, I haven't had that.
I don't. Does that make me like bad? Should someone evaluate me? Like, I guess I just.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
I was
just thinking that.
I don't know. Like, I guess when I'm always doing that, whether it's a dark scene or not, I'm in another world when I'm writing. How about you? Like, I feel like I have to always back out just to stop.
I was fine writing, I was totally fine writing all the dark scenes. The only time I had a problem was when I recently finished an adult suspense novel, and it was only after I finished, and then like about a week later, I was like, I feel so like dark and gloomy, and I don't know why. And then I realized, like, I was like, oh, I guess I'm still kind of in that headspace, and I did like have to go for a really long run to kind of just like get that shot of endorphins, and then I felt so much better afterwards, and I was like, oh, self-care. Who would have thought, that actually helps.
Being kind to oneself. What's that?
Yeah.
I don't think I'm still completely recovered. I will say I'm still a little wigged out by rest stops.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if either of you are familiar with rest stops in the Midwest, but I can't enter one. Before writing this book, I couldn't enter one without being a little skeeved out. They're wiggy. But now, oh my God, I don't even get out of the car. I'm like, I can hold it. I'm good forever. Like I just really, so.
Fair enough. Having been to Midwest rest stops, fair enough.
Yes.
So sort of changing gears a little bit, do you have any literary or pop culture things, so movies or just like the internet, that have really inspired you, even if they don't like directly inspire something in the book, like just that it gets your gears going, like you're like, okay, cool, we feel the energy, let's go.
Yeah.
I have to like ponder on this, so I'll let you go first.
You sure? Okay.
Yeah.
I have to ponder a little. I was and am a huge Stranger Things fan. So I don't have a tremendous amount of time to watch TV. I just don't. I write, I work full time. I have 3 kids. I'm very tired. I have luggage sets under my eyes. Like, it's not funny. I'm telling you, it's bad. But Stranger Things sucked me in and I could not turn it off. And I absolutely loved the fact that you could have great characters, great storytelling, real drama, real relationships, humor, and it was still really scary and really made you think and question and guess. I loved that. That got all my gears turning. Any story that can do that, and there are many that work, that just really puts me in the right mindset. I also like a lot of, there's a lot of music that works for me. I think writing this book, I listened to a lot of Sir Sly and Portugal the Man and Alt J probably. So there's music that will definitely very quickly just have me in a place where I'm thinking, where scenes are coming to me easier. They just get my juices going. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm just hung up on the fact that you have a full-time job and 3 kids.
Yes.
Like how do you have any time to write and do anything? Like, how do you have the energy and brain space? That's amazing.
I don't know if I have any energy at all. I think I work on fumes and caffeine. I don't know. People ask me all the time, how do you do it all? I'm like, I have no idea. Please don't let me stop.
That's so amazing. I love that you also like that you brought up Stranger Things, because I was trying to think of like you know, teen shows, because I watch a lot of them, but then of course I'm kind of like blanking out. But I do remember like one of the things in Stranger Things that kind of inspired me is that I totally expected the older sister to be a victim. I can't remember her name now.
Nancy.
But you know, Nancy, like I felt like she had all the hallmarks of a victim. And then it turned like, then they really develop her character and she turns out to be like this badass. And like everyone was just so unexpected. And I really, really like, that's the kind of thing I try to aim for in all of my stories. So that's an amazing show that you brought up.
It is great. I love that about Nancy too. She's one of my favorites because you think a thing about the show. Gosh, the other character I cannot believe Steve. Steve is a character that you want to paint one way very quickly.
Yeah.
I love Steve. I absolutely, and I know part of that is casting. He's just a miracle. He's so great and funny. Had to develop him, but he just naturally had that. And I love it when you can look underneath that first layer and say, what else is here? That's why I love that show so much. Yeah.
Excellent. We love a good Stranger Things. So I think I've got one more question, and then I've got some librarian questions that were submitted ahead of time, which we'll get to before we get to the current Q&A. So we're going to talk really quickly. We've got grief playing a substantial role in both of these books. And so can you talk a little bit about the way that grief motivates your characters or sort of escalates the tension and sort of like heightens the feelings that are already happening?
So when I wrote The Obsession, I mean, this is in no way like, you know, equal to the magnitude of the grief of losing one's parents. But I was feeling very sad because I was very far away from my parents, and I felt like this a little bit of a sense of loss. And I just felt like, wow, if I were a teen, I would feel so vulnerable and, you know, just so lost without like my parents. And so I wanted to kind of explore that and how it would just affect Delilah's life in every way possible, and that it would kind of just be like a constant presence or other absence in her life, and how it did make her more vulnerable to people like Logan. And so yeah, I guess I was kind of just taking, you know, my own like homesickness and everything.
Yeah, that's great. That's a very real thing. Homesickness is so hard, especially when you feel a distance. I think we all can relate to that this year, especially because COVID has changed it, made it difficult for us to see our loved ones.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think for Five Total Strangers, I actually have lost my parents, and my father died. I was very, very, very close to my father. He was probably one of my closest friends. He really inspired me to be a writer. He taught me to read when I was very little. Losing him was catastrophic. It was really bigger than words can say. It shifted the entire foundation of my life. But when he actually passed away, that first few months, I was like a little machine chugging away. I planned his funeral and I got his things together and I did this eulogy and it was beautiful. And I kind of just marched along, and I was so grateful. When my mother passed many years before, it was a little more breaking. She was so young. She was only 51. My dad was young too, but my mom was so young. It was so unexpected and such a terrible illness that there was a lot of issues with that. But my father, I felt this gratitude at first, this like, oh, we had such a beautiful relationship and I had these last moments with him and I'm so grateful that there's nothing I didn't say to him. And I grateful that right on through until a year later, I felt really dark and terribly sad and lost. And I realized, and with the help of a good therapist, that I had pushed it. I had just pushed it further ahead of me. I had never really grieved him. So I think that I realized that's a very real thing. I started talking to other people who'd lost their parents or family members, loved ones. And many people said it hit me a lot harder a year later, or 6 months later, or even longer than that. And I thought, I don't know that I see a lot of that. So I think that's why I chose to put Mira in that place of kind of exploring the idea that grief isn't always this perfect linear journey that we think it might be. Often it is. It's hills and valleys, or it might be pushed off a ways. But so that's kind of why I chose that, and also it is a journey, which is why I think it tied for me, those two things tied together, where Mira did belong in this book that was about a journey because she was on a journey. So.
Oh, wow. That's such a beautiful answer. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I feel like I learned so much from that.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've got a couple of librarian questions, and I see some audience questions coming in too, so great, keep submitting those. So this first one says, what is your writing process routine, and has this changed at all as a result of the pandemic?
I wanna know your answer, but I'll go first. So it did change because of the pandemic, because I have like 2 small kids, and they used to like go to nursery school, and now they don't. I used to have time when they were in school to write for like a couple of hours, but now I'm just like, okay, I gotta wake up super early before they do, and then like rush down. I literally like run down and quickly run to my office and then like review my notes for like a minute or two, and then I'm just like speed writing. I don't even know like what I'm writing half the time. And then I hear like the scariest sound in the world, which is like the door upstairs like creaking open, and then the little voice going, "Mama," and then you're like, "Mama."
Oh my gosh.
And then that's it. That's done. Like that's my writing for the day.
That's it. It's over.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. The pandemic, like, it is funny. I love that you're a mom, Jessie, because you understand. People are like, I made banana bread and I learned how to grill and I took up stained glass. And I'm like, I am so tired. I could die. Like, I have kids, they're older, and now I'm a writer. I work full time and I'm a teacher. What? I am not qualified for this.
Goodness.
Teachers are deities. Teachers and librarians do things mortals cannot do. And I am mortal. So it was so hard. Really, honestly, it's such a blur. How did I write during the pandemic? I have no idea at all. None. I did manage to do it. I did turn my book in. Gosh golly, I turned it in on time. No idea how, but I'm going to be honest, it needed more work than usual. I had to put in some hard editing because I don't know if anybody in the crowd is feeling like, well, gosh, I didn't, some people are like, I did all these great things during the pandemic. A lot of us just did our best. I was one of those, like, I did my best. And I think normally I like to have a more routine where I have kind of a word count per week is usually what I work by. If anybody's curious, like my days are so different that I have to stretch it out that way. I can't like say I'm going to write 1,000 words a day. That won't work because I might be able to write 3,000 one day and no 1,000 the next. And so it just depends. So I usually have a weekly word count, and I still did that during the pandemic. It was just a lot more gnashing of teeth, frankly. So.
Yeah, I have very low standards. Like my standards are, are my kids alive? Okay, they are. Yes, I did well.
Everybody's good.
Yes. That's a great standard. That's the best one. So this one you might need to think about. So I'm going to give you this one, and then I'm going to actually ask you a different question. So this one says, what's the best piece of writing advice you've ever been given? Okay. So just have that in the back of your brain. And we're going to talk about, do you have any unique or quirky writing habits?
So I don't know if this is unique because I've seen, those Alpha Neo Smart keyboards. They're basically like you can't really see the screen because they just have like a little strip, and I think you can only see like a sentence as you're writing or something like that, and like people swear by them. But I couldn't find one in Indonesia. So then my husband was like, "Oh, I'll make you one," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And then he just like got a piece of paper and he like covered my computer screen with it. And I hate to say
I almost spit water everywhere. That's so good.
Yeah, like I hate to say it, but it actually really worked. Like, wow, I felt so like such freedom. So I folded the piece of paper now so I can actually just see one sentence as I'm writing it, just for like typos and whatever. But I would highly recommend trying that.
A little low-tech solution.
I love that. I'm so my quirky thing, which is weird. I don't think I know any other writers that have ever said this. I never write at a desk. I can't write at a desk, and I have to put my feet up. I know it's really weird. I've written in my car. I write a lot in bed. I write on couches. If I write at a coffee shop, which I do sometimes, I have to like have another chair to put my feet on. I don't know what it is. Like I have to put my feet up or I can't. Is there something wrong with the wiring of my brain? I think what we're learning today is yes, there is. But that's my weird thing is I have to have my darn feet up for some reason. I eat
love it.
Ridiculous amount of veggie straws. Like, I don't know if you've ever had those. I can't believe I don't have a bag beside me. Like that's my work. You know what that is. But the best piece of writing advice that I've ever received, and the one that I give the most, is let yourself be bad. It's okay. We're all bad at it. Like,
damn it, I was gonna say that one.
Yes, our books look good together and we give the same advice. Like write messy, just do it. It's okay. You can clean it up. Like, don't think that because I'm sitting here with a bunch of books that I know what I'm doing and it all comes out perfect. And I doubt Jessie would say every line in her system is exactly the way she wants it because she used this. It's okay to be messy. That's how we learn and that's how we grow. And you can always edit. So let yourself be messy. That's my piece.
Totally. I mean, I was going to say aim low because, I used to think, this needs to come out perfect. And that actually really made me procrastinate because I would kind of like dread. And so the words were not coming out at all. And I really ended up like really hating myself. And each time, I don't know about you, but like every time I write, I have like this inner voice that is so horrible and mean. And it's always like, what you're writing sucks. Oh, wow, that sentence is so awkward. Or, gosh, the plot doesn't make any sense. And on it goes. And so when I started telling myself, well, you know what, just aim as low as you can, get the first draft out, and then we'll just work on everything else. And it's okay. It's fixable. Everything is fixable. So yeah, aim low.
I love that. Aim low. Inspiring words from published authors. Aim low. But it's true. Like it is like, and I do have that voice, Jessie. I know I've met plenty of writers who are like the confident. I think there are two kinds of authors. There's the super confident, like, I'm brilliant. This is great. I know I've got it. And then there's me like, I don't know why this is happening to me. Like every book, I feel so You would think by now I would feel like you've got this. I don't. I'm still uncertain. Push through that feeling. Like we have it. It's okay.
Yeah. You have to build an ugly foundation to make a pretty house.
Yes. I love that.
I love
That's
that.
a good one too.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay. So I have one more librarian question, and then I've got audience questions in the wings waiting. So this one says, what do you want readers to take away from your book?
So first of all, like, don't stalk girls. I think would be like the main message.
I agree.
And yeah, I mean, I just wanted it to be like a look into, you know, what different forms of abuse look like, because when that guy was kind of like following me around college, he like I would tell a couple of people, and you know, their reactions would range from like, oh, that's so romantic, you know, to like, oh, I've seen him around, he's so hot, to, you know, like just a lot of like people generally loved it. I don't know, like it's weird, like, so, you know, I wanted to show like, well, actually what could look romantic from the outside could actually be really scary. So that, I think that's like the main thing that I wanted people to take away from that.
Wow. Jessie, I'm so sorry that happened. That's really, I don't think there's anything much worse than experiencing something frightening or oppressive and having people discount that feeling. I'm so sorry that you went through that. That's really awful. I think that for my book, there is a similar, and maybe what I feel like is that women, you can trust your gut. Like, you know, Jessie's experience was not comfortable for her, and she knew that, like that we need to trust our gut. And a lot of what Nira goes through in Five Total Strangers is trusting her gut with her grief, trusting her gut with what's going on in this car. So I think it's listening to your instincts. And sometimes even when we think we're wrong, there are pieces of it that will make sense later. So I think a lot of it is about trusting your instincts for me.
Excellent. So we have some audience questions that I'm gonna read out. So this one is from Francis, and it says, why do you choose to write books for young adults?
Okay, you go.
Why would people write it for anybody else? No, I actually do. I have, you know, I'm working on an adult, and I've written a middle grade that I'm editing right now. So, but particularly teens, I love writing for teens. I don't know if I'm an overgrown teen myself or what happened there. I think part of it is, for me, I feel like when you're a teenager, you are figuring out who you are, what you like, what you don't like, what you want, what you don't want. You're really stepping into your own for the first time, and you're not jaded and cynical and overly cautious with every single thing you do, because you're kind of diving into yourself, and there's a part of you that is so authentic in that time period in a way you never are again. I love writing for that audience. It is an unbelievable privilege to write for people who are becoming who they are in that moment. That's incredible. So that's why I do it, for sure.
But I love that you write adult and middle grade also, because I do that too. Yay!
I was like, yeah, Jessie's got like 17 books in the works, seems like.
I feel that way.
Yeah. And what I love about writing for teens, aside from everything that you've said, which I completely agree with, is I love the feeling that kind of like the world is, you know, about to be discovered, and, you know, like great things are kind of waiting for you. I don't know why, like I just had that feeling a lot when I was in high school. I was like, once high school is over, you know, it's a whole great big world for me to like conquer. And you know, you're like you say, you're not like cynical yet, or you are, but like in a very different way too.
Yes.
like a 30-year-old. So I love how like everything it feels so huge. So yeah, I just love all of the emotions that come with being a teen. So I guess I'm always trying to like relive them.
Yes, I agree with that too. 100%. Yes.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And also the books are just some of the best, right? YA books are.
Yeah, totally. That's 100%. Yes.
This question is from Chaplin. What is your favorite genre of book to read besides the genre you write in?
I love all genres actually. Like I read really widely. And I recently just finished reading a fantasy novel, The Priory of the Orange Tree, which was really good. But I would say my favorite genre is still adult suspense, because I find them very like gritty and so like bitter and so cynical, that it makes me feel like I'm just such a light-hearted, like
I'm so much fun.
cheerful person.
I love that. That's awesome. So Jesse and I apparently share a soul, because I do.
Yeah.
I read really widely. I think my last two reads, I read Such a Fun Age, which came out this year or maybe last. It was great. I'm currently reading a Billy Collins book of poetry and Braiding Sweetgrass, which is hard to describe. It's from a Native American author who's wonderful. It's really beautiful. It's long and lush, and I'm just really enjoying it. So I read all over the map. I don't tend to read a ton of suspense currently because I'm writing it. And it never really like gets into your head. Like people are like, oh, do you end up writing the same? Not at all. But I think it's maybe a little fatigue with it because I'm surrounded by it all the time, writing it and editing it and promoting it. So while I do tend to read, when I do read it, I do tend to read more on the adult side. I actually tend to read a lot of things that are very different than what I write. A lot of literary fiction, a lot of poetry and essays and nonfiction. You name it. So I'm kind of all over the map too.
Yeah, we love that.
Yes.
All the tropes, all the genres, everything.
Yes.
I don't know if this is about these books in particular. I know we've got one movie coming, but this says, do you think your book could be a movie? And Jesse's got a movie in the works, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So my adult murder rom-com, which I have decided is a genre. Dial A for Aunties will be coming to Netflix for the obsession. I don't know. I feel like obviously I'm like, yeah, I would love for it to be a movie, but I kind of think it's like I saw You, the book You, and I was like, damn, this is so similar. So I'm gonna say like, no, it's too similar to You. Oh well.
Maybe not. You never know. Movies can, I don't know. Yeah. It might work out just fine. So I've had a ton of talks with different people about different books. Lana Condor from To All the Boys actually like talked about Five Total Strangers and said she wants it to be a movie and she wants it to be in it. Let's make that happen.
Oh my gosh.
Let's really make that happen. That would be amazing.
Wow.
So I would love to see this made into a movie because I think it would be really interesting, but I know it would be tricky to shoot. I'm not stupid enough to think that it wouldn't be because a lot of it is set in a car and it really would require a blizzard, and it definitely would require some elements of being in a freeway blizzard situation that might be difficult to recreate. I'm not a film person, so I don't know. But
I feel like if they could get Aladdin and Jasmine on a magic carpet and the live action Aladdin, like I feel like they can do a car in a blizzard.
This is so valid.
Yeah.
Thank you. I need to set my sights a little higher on this. You're right. This can be done.
Yeah.
They can create dragons. So
would you like a flying car in a blizzard? Like we can do that.
Right. This is true. I like this. This is all good points to remind me of these things. But yes, no. So I would love
I
it.
like how you're like, yeah, get my actors into like an actual blizzard.
I'm like, put them in the road. No, I don't want to put anybody in danger at all. I really don't. But I don't know how. I don't know. It seems that's all movie magic. This is why I write books. Clearly, I do not belong in Hollywood doing that. So, yes.
Visual effects people deserve more money than they get, I think.
Oh my gosh, that's so true.
Okay, so Tiffany has, I'm assuming this is the same person for both because they both say from Tiffany and they're both individual questions. So for Natalie, if you had to choose only one, which of the books that you have written is your most favorite and why?
Oh, that's so hard. Oh my gosh. That's like, pick your favorite kid. I mean, so, oh man, they're all for different reasons. It would really have to be the day today, because really I have like 3 books that I would say are my favorites. One is 5 Total Strangers, because I had been a little burnt on writing, and this book sucked me in and was so fun to write and was so scary and so immersive that I loved being in it. So I loved that. But I will say the book before it, What You Hide, are by far my favorite characters, especially Mallory. She is my favorite character that I've ever written. She is a girl that is struggling with homelessness, who is staying in a public library after hours. So she was definitely my favorite character, and there were elements of that book that were probably my favorite as well. So I think these 2 might be my favorites. I also really loved, one was Lost, which was actually my 4th book. That was another book that's similar to this. After I lost my dad, that was the first book I wrote after that. And it really, I was afraid I wouldn't be able to write. And I was like, I can still do this. It's still in there somewhere. And so all 3 of those, I know that's you're probably like, Tiffany's there sitting there going, yeah, that's a cop out. That's not a real answer. They're kind of different. So hopefully that's okay.
Yeah. It just means that people need to get all your books as opposed to just one.
Yes.
That's how we're choosing to look at it.
Yes.
And then this is also from Tiffany, for Jessie. This says, hi, Jessie. I'm also from Indonesia. I had a question for you. Was publishing internationally difficult or hard for you? How did you manage to publish your books internationally while still choosing to live and stay in Indonesia?
That's a really great question. So things kind of worked out for me because of COVID. There's like no in-person events. And so I haven't felt like I'm missing out on a lot of things by being in Indonesia, thanks to all of the virtual events. And I hope that continues to be a thing down the road, especially, for those of us with kids. I just don't know how authors like did that. So that required a lot of like organization, I'm guessing. And as far as everything else, I really haven't felt any difficulties because everything is like done over email. The only thing that I did find a little bit more challenging was when I wrote a book that was set in Indonesia. And it just tanked on like submissions, and a couple of editors did tell us like, oh, it's because it's set in Indonesia. Like, when books are set outside of the US, we find it a little bit harder to find an audience with them. So that, I won't lie, like that sucks. So then what I did was to set my stories in the US, and after getting like the big deal with Dal A for Aunties, I felt like I had a little bit more leeway to play around with that. And so my next YA, I set it in Indonesia, and it sold. So, just kind of like taking one step at a time, and, kind of just waiting for the door to kind of crack open, then you can like slide in there and be like, you know.
Yeah, love that.
So yeah.
I think we've got time for like 2 more questions. So I've got this one from Jen, which is, which of your novels do you think you would survive in the easiest?
Oh gosh. Okay.
It's all so difficult.
I know, we're both like,
survive in any of my novels.
I know. I'm like, guys, I'm a writer. I'm not a survivalist. Look at me.
Yeah.
I
know exactly.
I don't know. I mean, I like to think I would survive all of them. I found my way through writing them, right? But honestly, I can tell you the one that I absolutely would have died in, if it would be of any help, and that was Lost. Because that girl is lost in the woods, and I cannot, absolutely not. I am not a happy camper. I am not a camper in any shape or form. Absolutely not. No. A tent between me and a bear? No, absolutely not. No. So I would have died if one was lost for sure. No
That's
question.
so funny.
I like to hike, but I need to go back to a cabin at night. Thank you. Yes.
I see you are subscribing to the Rachel theory of horror movies or zombie apocalypse, and that is no. The theory is no. We're not going to do that.
That's just a hard no. Full stop. No. Yes.
That's so funny. Yeah, I would totally, I'm sure that I would be the first to die in like any horror movie situation, because like there was one night where my husband and I were watching TV, and then we suddenly heard like a thump at the front door, and my husband like jumped up into action. Like I literally like jumped up and then stayed there like this, like he was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I was like, I don't know. It turned out to be a cat that I don't know what it was doing, but it just decided to like lie against our front door. So that was a nice surprise. But my instinct is to freeze, like literally freeze like a hamster. So I would not survive any of my books.
I think it might be different if I had somebody I am more of a fighter, I think, but I still like, I'm a wimp. I'm a fighter, but I'm a wimp. So yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. We played one round of laser tag with the lights off, and I was like, this is the worst experience of my life. Like, I'm going to go sit in the lobby, and we're going to do another one with like more lights on next time, because I cannot do this. So I would not survive a single mystery book.
Yes.
Wouldn't happen. So finally, I think we'll do this one from Kathleen. What is your favorite book? Either a recent great read or one you return to again and again.
Oh my God.
Wow, that's so difficult.
I wish I had my book of books. I can never remember, like I read all the time and then I'm like, books? What are those? Do I read them?
What's my gosh. Yeah.
What is that? Like the minute someone asks this question, immediately, I can't remember any book I've ever read.
It's just a blank. Yeah.
Why are we this way? What is wrong with me? I'm trying to think. There is one I can think of. Do you have one, Jessie? Because I'm just trying to think of the name of it. I just read it.
I have like an author, I guess. So my favorite author, it was Sir Terry Pratchett, and I think I've read all of his Discworld books, like at least 4 or 5 times over. Especially anything with the witches in them, I would highly recommend. I just love them. Like there's so much in them that I feel like with every like reread, I'm still discovering new things. I love books where you do that.
Yeah, that's so true. Yes, I do love that. I think I've been rereading in the last couple of years, a lot of Toni Morrison. She's brilliant. She's, I mean, an icon, an absolute legend. So I think that is just sometimes reading. Going back. And then I recently read a book, Nothing to See Here. And I don't know if anyone's heard of this. It got a little bit of attention. Oh gosh, I know somebody's giving book recs and they're probably like, I hate this girl, man. She can't even tell me the author of anything. I can't, I'm the worst. But I think it's called Nothing to See Here. And it is about a nanny who ends up nannying for kids who catch on fire, which sounds ridiculous. Yeah, but it is really the greatest book. It's funny and interesting. I don't know. I loved that book. It just really pulled me in completely. But yes. I don't know. This would change. You could literally turn off this webinar, start another one, and ask me this question. I'll have 3 different books, and I bet Jessie will too. This is just the way it is. Yeah.
It's the kind of thing, the kind of question, like, as soon as this is over, I'll be like, why didn't I say like that other book? You know?
Yes. Like, I just read this one. I want everybody to read. Like, I'm sure that Rachel does this too, because you're a librarian, so it's got to be the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't remember anything. I have to people will be like, can you give me a book rec? And I'm like, let's go walk the shelves so I can have visual reminders.
And then you can go, this one. Yeah.
Yes. But so do you want to tell us again where people can find you on the internet in case you think of something else and post it somewhere that they could find?
So the best way to find me is on Twitter, where my name is I hate saying my Twitter handle because it's so ridiculous, and I'm like, why did no one tell me to change it? But now it's too late. But anyway, I am on Twitter at the Writing Hippo. So
that's fantastic. What? Never change that. That's the best. That's so good. I will never forget that. I'll be like, oh my God, Jessie, Writing Hippo. I will totally remember that. I can't remember anything. Mine is Natalie Richards, and I think I am on Twitter some, but I'm more on Instagram. You could find me on Facebook. Please don't send me a message on Facebook, because I'll find it 8.5 months later and then have an existential crisis about how bad I am about Facebook. So please message me on Instagram, and if I think there's a way they hide messages there, so put it on a post of mine. I feel horrible when I don't reply, but if I don't see it, I sometimes find things that I'm like, that's really nice from 4 months ago.
Oh my gosh. Yes. So I would like to thank everyone who participated in our book club today. Sourcebooks has listed winners in the chat. So if you are a winner, you can email Lizzie. Her email's in the chat as well, to claim your prize. Natalie and Jessie, it was so wonderful chatting with both of you. Thank you again to everyone who joined us. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you, Rachel, so
much. I just wanted to add thank you, Rachel, for hosting. And I didn't even realize that you were going to be hosting it until like literally when they were like, okay, we're going to, start the show. And, Rachel, are you ready? And I'm like, Rachel, oh my gosh, like I'm such a huge fan of yours. Please follow Rachel on Twitter.
What's happening?
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
I was like, oh no, why? How did I not because I'm on my phone and I didn't scroll, to see who was here. I feel so duh. But yeah, I mean, this was so exciting when I was like, oh my God, Rachel is gonna be hosting.
Yes. That's me. Yes. Yes. Thank you so much. And again, giveaway winners, make sure you are emailing Lizzie for your stuff.
Okay.
Don't want to leave those free books on the table.
Yes.